Hey guys, welcome to my live stream, or if you're watching on YouTube, remember to like and subscribe. And my name is Hannah from Reality Awareness. If you guys don't know me and this is your first time to my live stream, please comment below and let me know. I have a big energy update to talk about today. Can you guys feel that energy after Notre Dame went right? I'm sure you guys can feel it. Give me some love hearts and comment below if you guys can feel that energy that's just gone today after that happened. And I've got a lot to talk about with this. I also want to announce that with this sort of energy, trust your intuition. I'm opening the doors to trust the intuition now. The doors weren't supposed to open for another 2 weeks, but with the energy, I'm like now. And really important, this Saturday, Australian Eastern Standard Time, it will be held at 8 a.m. I'm doing a live global healing. This came through really strong. It actually came through yesterday. And then today the energy is like so strong. So I'll see yeah, you guys can feel it, right? I'll post later on today about the exact, global live healing, but that will be done publicly. And I'm starting to talk about it, a little bit nervous about it, simply because with this global live healing, I've only done this like in my private group before in Trust Intuition. The depth of that healing that happened, and that was like the last weekend or the second last weekend of November that I held that global live healing, and it was focused on all through like New Orleans and under Mississippi and all like through there, and then it went back to Atlantis, and that was at the end of November. And I'm being called to hold a live global healing. Obviously it's intuitive, whoever turns up helps to hold the space, so be mindful when you join that global live healing this coming weekend. This will be on Saturday, Easter Saturday or Good Friday, depending on where you are in the world. It will be held at 8 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, Brisbane, Australian Eastern Standard Time. I was like, oh, the daylight savings is finished here now. So it's at 8 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on Good Saturday. So let's talk all this stuff, right? So as you guys can see, I'm like full of energy, right? Hey, beautiful, say hi when you're here. Let me know you guys can feel the energy if you're just jumping on. After the Notre Dame, like I woke up and saw that and I was like, oh, maybe I should have posted about that the other day. Like, and it's interesting that I got that message about Archangel Michael the other day, and I'm like, man, like it's, that whole collective and that whole, this is where there's spirituality and then there's spirituality, right? And it's kind of like, well, for me, everything is spiritual. And there's a depth to it because everything is energy, right? And anything on top of that, any label, even spirituality itself, even spirituality as a label kind of limits what it is we're actually here for, what it is we do. Do you know what I mean? Like it's really strong, right? Yes, put it in your diary, guys. Let me share this, and then I'm going to jump in deeper about this energy update that is like itching to come through, and I'll give a bit of announcements here too, by the way, because puts a label to a name to it, puts a limitation on it, right? It's a bit like us calling ourselves human, right? It kind of gives us a label, right, of what the hell this is, human, but it limits our soul potential, right? And it's a little bit contradictory because we kind of are limited in a way in our human body compared to what our soul can expand to, right? And I do believe that we are on earth to allow ourselves to, I guess, transcend our human body in a sense of like, do we let these limitations stop us, or do we find ways to enable ourselves to expand and grow of our soul's evolution of the reason we're here in the first place, right? Okay, let me just share this one more time to my personal page. Exactly. So much bigger than us. Cool. All right, so where do I start? First of all, I want to start with that. You know how I stopped doing the weekly intuitive energy update like every Monday, and like I was like, oh, so freed from doing that, and then like the energies came through really strongly today, obviously, and I was getting ready, and I'm like, every live stream I do is a blooming energy update, right? And this is the thing, I don't like predicting stuff, you know, it's just like, because nothing's really set in stone, and I'd rather do it when it's alive and in flow and da-da-da. So there's lots of things I want to talk about on this live stream that have been flowing through really strongly. One is about spiritual healing, what it actually takes to heal, the depth of spiritual healing, you know, what it means to be spiritually awakened, why it gets worse before it gets better. I also want to talk about what I have noticed in releasing spiritual traumas, in releasing and growing a new reality, yeah, in birthing a new reality, what that encounters and what that actually involves and what that looks like. I've noticed working with my clients over a long period of time, and what I've noticed over the years of doing this spiritual healing work for nearly 14 years now, it's like there's this pattern that I've noticed, and I really want to share that because I've actually been talking about it over and over and over to a couple of clients, and I was just like, I really need to share this publicly because it helps us understand our limitations in our human body compared to what our soul is, and why there's always this, I guess, discord of like, you know, we're always striving for more, or there's always the next goal, or there's always the next thing, and we're like never happy with what we've got, right? And it's not about being happy, yeah, because we didn't come to earth to be happy. Like we didn't come here for joy and da-da-da. Although part of living is finding joy in the right now, because joy is a emotion on that scale that encompasses all the emotions. We came here to feel. We came here to experience all of these emotions. Now, part of that, I guess, is the evolution of consciousness and growing, yeah? It's not just we came here to be happy, like we've got to find happiness. Like, fuck no, we came here to experience the whole range of emotions. That's why we're in a limited human body. That's why it's the light and the dark. It's the full spectrum, yeah? And the key and the gifts is about learning how to be in those emotions without letting them overtake you and thinking there's something wrong with you for feeling, yeah? For feeling these cycles of emotions and, oh, why am I back in this space? Actually, it's the cycles of life. Which leads me to where we're at with the cathedral burning down yesterday or the day before, whenever it was, right? That's a really big deal for a lot of people. Now, I commented on someone's post randomly come up in my feed. I was like, we don't need a temple to connect to the divine. And someone angrily wrote back, but this is a huge thing and a lot of people are upset about it. I said, yeah, it's really rocked the world. It's rocked the world. Like literally, it's like a volcano has gone off. That's the energy that has come out of this. Not just a building burning down, it is like a volcano has erupted. And it has. Because when we think about the volcanoes on the earth, they are deeply connected to the Hawaiian goddess Pel, which is about passion and awakening our life purpose and awakening our passion and finding our purpose and da-da-da-da, yeah? Some are really, really fragile with it. Yes, 100%. And this is good, right? Because they are awakening to a different level of consciousness, right? They're awakening to like, oh, what's happening, yeah? Some people are really emotional, yeah? Raw feelings everywhere. Yeah? What do emotions do? Oh, they get us to feel. They get us to feel grief. Now, I teach this and I encourage my clients, right? When people come to me with big, heavy spiritual traumas and they're like, why does this keep happening? And why can't I get past this? And why can't I let this relationship go? And why can't I do this? And why can't I do this? Hey guys, right? Because why do you keep going back to the same relationship? Why does this shit keep happening? Because you haven't felt the depth of grief in your heart, right? We are not just happiness and joy. And when we try and bury those darker emotions, which are a heavier vibration, which are sadness, depression, grief, like anger, like all of that, when we push that shit down, okay? And this is what I teach my clients. When you need to cry and you can't, watch a sad movie, right? Or something will trigger you to cry, i.e. the cathedral burning down. I guarantee you what they are actually grieving about is not, yes, that's a trigger, and they feel everyone else's emotions about the whole thing. It rocked the world because every single person, right, is an empath on this planet. We're clairsentient beings. Everybody feels energy. Fuck's sake. What do you feel like for dinner? Oh, I feel like this. They just tuned into what they feel like. Everybody feels. Every single person on this planet feels. Now, when a bigger event happens like this on the earth and it rocks the earth, everybody can feel that grief start to pour out, like they're feeling each other. And if they're not consciously aware, then they start crying because yes, it triggers their own grief, but they're also feeling everyone else's grief. And that's why they're rampant and they'll start to be angry, because actually anger is part of the grief cycle. Yeah. Tears, grief, shock, emotion, grief. Yeah. Sadness, depression, all part of the grief cycle. Very important emotions in healing a trauma, in healing anything, in letting go of anything. So all those people that are starting to cry about this thing, or that are grieving, right? They're not only feeling their own grief, they're feeling the world's grief and everyone else is bumping off each other with all this grief, right? All the energy's grief. What it's also doing, and this is what I say, when they start crying about that, the cathedral, I'll use that example, they're also tapping into all this grief that hasn't been felt before, that they've pushed down and buried down. So when somebody says something about it, they're firing up and they're like, because of all this stuff's coming up, they're like, oh, they don't want to feel the depth of that grief. Well, how come you're not crying, like, sort of thing, in a way, right? Wish people would feel as much for our planet and the energetic beings on it as they have for a building. Yes, isn't it interesting? Right? It is lifting so much more. Yes, 100%. And isn't it interesting that that cathedral was, I shared a post today, did you see? Racism just came up to me yesterday. Yep. That cathedral was built over a pagan city, right? And the amount of witches that were crucified and burnt in front of that church, that cathedral. Paris and that cathedral also is on potent ley lines, yeah? Why is there an Eiffel Tower there, for goodness sake? Why is there pyramids around the world? Like, these are all different portals of energy around the earth. Why was there a pagan city there first, and why was it covered up? Please know that I'm not saying that anything's bad, right, wrong, anything. I'm explaining energy for eons gone past right now, okay? So before Christianity, before Catholicism, before any religion on this earth, what was there? And I almost meant to Google this beforehand, right? Because I'm like, where the fuck, this is what's been coming to my mind when I've been processing all this. The past like weeks been coming to mind. Because before all this happened, I was getting those whispers from the goddess, you know, like, how will we know it's done? Because the great halls will burn and blood will be spilt. Like, I was getting those messages when I was at the beach. I was hearing them. For whatever reason, that message came to mind. Like, well, when will we know it's done? Like, I don't know why I asked that question, right? Where did the Adam and Eve story come from? And I don't know if it's Christians or something. I don't know. I probably need to Google that, right? But it was coming to me and I was like, well, you know, if, and again, I don't know where that story came from. Like, I'll need to Google it. If Adam and Eve are representative of male, female on the planet, and I think it was Eve, the one that took the apple, she was the one that did out of like the rules, right? She was the one that broke out of the rules. Please correct me if I'm wrong, right? And if we look at the male-female aspect, it's kind of like, you know, men say, you know, and this is generalized, please know this is generalized. Men say can't control their woman, like, you know, coming back into depth of like, even, I don't even know where it was. Like, I don't know if it's Rome or it was something. I think it was the Roman Empire that started bringing in, again, I don't know, right? This is just, again, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, the Roman Empire was where marriage started to come in, where we, instead of, you know, before then, it was kind of like we'd sleep with anyone, yeah? In a sense of like, it was okay to be sexual with other people and to be in relationship. Like, it was okay, right? And then they brought in like control and, okay, we only have to be with one person, yeah? And so when that all came in, it's kind of like this control and, you know, like over the goddess, over Eve. Okay, you can't do that. We need to control this, right? You can't control the fucking goddess, for fuck's sake. You can't control the cycles of Mother Nature. You can't control anything on this planet. Like, we are not in control of everything, but with everything being birthed out of that way and like we headed into the darkness of the eons, right? it was Lilith who broke the chain. Yeah, interesting, right? Because this is, and Lilith is seen, and same with Kali, as like the dark mother, the dark, you know, like, you know, the wrath and the fury and the fire, you know, look at the fire and look at that. It's destruction, but it's rebirth. Everything cycles on this planet, whether it's government structures, whether it's the seasons, whether it's like, you know, coming out of religion and going back to the natural earth and living in harmony, in heart-centered on the planet, and actually caring for other people in our planet in general. That's cycling back around. Now, on another energy update, I wanted to, like on here, I also wanted to share that why people are like, oh my God, everything's like fast paced and everything is like, you know, going at rapid speed and everything is falling apart and everything is just in the air, like up in the air. And I don't know which reality is going to land and all these possibilities. And I'm freaking the fuck out. And this thing didn't work. And I thought this was supposed to work and I don't know what's going on. I want to point out that I've seen a lot of clients like this, like this is why I'm doing a big energy update about this, that I'm sensing that this energy will be here for about, I don't know, till about September, October, I keep getting, okay? So if you're looking for a reprieve in the energy, it's kind of not coming. Now, I said this years ago, it's like, this is the new normal, and it's not about us like, oh, when's it going to stop and go back to like nothing? I mean, like, look back to 20 years ago, there was hardly any technology around, and look how fast paced it's gone. That's only going to keep increasing. And this is why it's teaching us to come back to the present moment in our heart and be with everything that is. I'll check comments in a moment, right? So this whole, you know, like, and why is this happening now? And this is where it brings me to Easter and where it brings me to the Age of Aquarius that's dawning. I think it's not actually, I don't know if it's January, the end of January, beginning of February or something like that. It's not exactly like on the 31st, 1st of December, right? And so when all this is going on, right, this is all, you know, like Easter, okay? We've got an Easter full moon. Easter is always prominent in new beginnings, in birthing new situations. If you like want to bring something new in or a new reality and you want to bring like a, I don't know, a new reality in, a new life, a new, like you want to let go of shit, this weekend is the perfect weekend for that. We've got the full moon on Friday night with Australian Eastern Standard Time. So Friday night is Good Friday is the full moon. And then as we know, so this is the time when Jesus rose from the dead, right? This is his like rebirth back into the world, yeah? So this is a really powerful portal for doing sacred rituals, for doing ceremonies of releasing, yeah? I'm getting covered in goosebumps as I say this. Yeah, and the Age of Aquarius. Now this brings me to where I wanted to point out these patterns that I've noticed in working with people around, like clients over the past 14 years that I've been working with them, right? And this is deeply tapping into fertility issues. This is deeply tapping into receiving issues. Now, when I say receiving, I'm talking about receiving love, receiving intuition, receiving money, receiving anything. Because if you have a block to receiving, you have a block to receiving anything you're trying to manifest, right? Receiving is a feminine energy. And here we are coming back to Eve, who was the bad one, who took the apple. Actually, she just did what felt right in her intuition, and everyone else judged her for that, by the way. See these paradigms being blown out, right? You can't do that. We need to control, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. They're like, do you know what I mean? Like that sort of thing, right? All of this is coming deep into the goddess rising. Now, again, that whole like, you know, the control thing, even marriage, any religion, it's you need to be this way or you're going to hell or whatever the fucking story is. Like, well, hello, hell's a part of the spectrum. I might want to be in the hell, right? Who are you to tell me where I fucking need to go? Right? Coming back to Eve. You need to be controlled. You shouldn't be doing that. Right? Patriarchal is the masculine. It's been out of balance for eons. What is happening right now is that the matriarchal is rising, the goddess is rising, the feminine is rising. It's not that it's taking over, it's bringing it back into balance. It's bringing it back into Eve being able to take the apple, and everyone's okay with that because it's none of their fucking business at the end of the day. Right? And so what I found so interesting as we're moving into the age of Aquarius, right? And we're tapping into the goddess, we're tapping into receiving, we're tapping into our intuition. By the way, intuition is a feminine thing, right? It is tapping into so much of the goddess that it's returning. Now, what I have noticed, like I said, over these 14 years of working with clients doing this spiritual work, is that, especially with fertility issues, when you start, okay, now as I say this, I want you to think back to when this all started for you, okay, on a couple of pinpoint timelines for yourself, okay? This is a crucial element, and this is going to help to take pressure off. It's going to help to stop thinking that something's wrong. It's going to help to realize that it is working, right? It's going to help to understand how we be spiritual in a physical reality, that we're constantly like, but there should be more, and we're expanding, but we're stuck in this limited body. It's going to help you to understand, you know, like manifestation. It's going to help you tap into your like receiving abilities, your abundance. It's going to help you tap into friggin' anything if you really get this key point. The main thing that I have noticed, and I'm never saying it because people are like, oh, well, that takes too long, but this is what I have literally noticed, okay? Now, as a woman on this planet, it takes us 9 to 10 months to grow a baby in our womb, okay? Now, what I have noticed working with clients is that when they first come and work with me, that first kind of date, right? That first day that you guys choose to work with me, it is like 9 months. This is what I've noticed over time. It is 9 months of clearing out shit, of going through seasons of grief, which I also want to talk about, going through all this, so having realizations, right? 9 months. And at 9 month mark, it'll be like death. It'll be like, what the fuck is going on? Like, it'll be like death. Yeah, it'll be dark. It'll be heavy. It will be hard. Why? Because you're about to birth a new reality. You're about to birth a baby that you conceived when you started working with me. Now, you could entail that, you know, story to, like, that timeline to anyone that you've been working with on a, you know, on a spiritual level, whatever mentor, actually, I guess. I reckon it's any level, to be honest. 9 months. This part will be like hell, because it's not easy to birth a baby out of a vagina either, by the way, right? Neither is birthing a whole new reality. Now, another key point that I've noticed, and this is for fertility issues, right? And this is where I specifically started noticing it. And then I started noticing it with just general clients and everything else going on. Is it from, especially working with fertility, like, so, you know, women that can't fall pregnant and working with their partners together from the moment they book in with me, 9 months, but it's not 9 months that they then conceive, it's another 9 months. So there's something about an 18-month period, and then they usually conceive. I've noticed it with 3 clients over the past 14 years I've been working with. I was like, well, this is interesting, right? Right? And so, but what I've also noticed is that with myself, with other people, with all of that, there's 9 months and it feels like death, and this is not working. And then all of a sudden, it starts to really take off. Right? I don't know what it is. Like, I don't have those answers about the 18-month thing, but I really want to point out, if you guys have been working with me or you've started following me and you're putting in my free tools and practicing and using them, and everything feels like it's going to shit, or it's hard, or it's like all that sort of stuff, it's like, check back. When did you start following me? When did you download my meditation packs and start actually using them every day? Like, when, you know, when was that? Because if you're going through a really hard time now and it is coming up to the 9 months, or it's just past it, that's why. And you're so close to coming into the light and birthing. Yeah, if you think of coming, like growing in a womb, right? And then birthing a whole new reality and a whole new consciousness, that's what's going on. So don't think there's something wrong with you. Now, this brings me to talking about seasons of grief. And this is the reason why things get worse before they get better. Yeah, when anyone, especially when they have a spiritual awakening and they're like, oh my God, I'm just crying all the time, and like, where's that feeling gone? And this stuff doesn't work, and right? It's exactly the sense of the cathedral burning down and everyone crying about that, and then all the other grief that they've pushed down for eons of time, is starting to surface, and they're like, oh my God, and they don't realize though, so they'll be making it about that, but what's happening is about their mother that passed away, or about that relationship that ended, that they didn't want it to end and they never really got past it and they just remarried straight away, or you know, whatever the story is, right? In that sense, is there's usually a season of grief. Now, it's kind of like, it might be off-putting in a way for people like, well, I don't want to do any spiritual work. I don't want to be crying for 3 months. I don't want to be crying for 6 months, because a season is 3 months, right? And what do I always say? 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years. Something about the threes, something about 9 months, and then the 18-month mark. There's something about that. I don't quite know what that is, but the 9 months is pretty obvious, right? With a woman in her womb. It's probably something to do with, you know, the Fibonacci sequence, I'm sure. If I researched that, I haven't really looked into that actually. There's the threes and then the nines, and I'm sure there's some connection there, but I haven't actually looked at that. So I wanted to say that, okay, and these seasons of grief, again, this is where, like, I guess it's, I don't know what the word is, and I don't know, it's just a general collective thing where people are not okay with feeling in their heart, and perhaps that because it's deeply connected to the goddess, it's deeply connected to the feminine, it's deeply connected to intuition, it's deeply connected to our heart, our being, right, and caring about others in the world. And if we actually take it back deep to the Adam and Eve thing about, you know, like the apple, you know, like, you can't eat that, don't do that. She's like, I'm going to do what feels right for me, right? And then that's where that all comes in, and it's almost like the head and the heart is like conflicting and like all this stuff, yeah? So when you're working and you start going through stuff and you're like, oh my God, when is this going to end? Why is this like getting worse? Yeah, I want you to check in. Where's the timeline of, you know, when you started doing this work pretty deeply and consistently too, by the way, yeah? And keep moving through, because and the thing with having these roundabout timelines in your head is that it takes, one, like I said, the pressure off. It takes the something's wrong with me, why am I crying all the time, you know? And the other important key that I really want to say here is that when you start grieving about something, and this is what I say to my clients, and there's some clients that really drop into this and some people that don't, and that's perfectly okay, but when you can grieve, okay, and I've also noticed there's only certain people that can kind of do this comfortably, in a sense that when I talk about grief, I don't just mean a little cry here and there. I mean curled up in fetus position on your kitchen floor, on your bed, in the bath, like, you know, in the shower, like in the bottom of the shower, like grief in the fetus position. I call it piercing the veils grief, where you are in the fetus position, like, and you can't take another breath. It's like that. Like, you feel like you can't take another breath. It is that deeper grief. It is piercing the veils grief. You pierce into other dimensions when you grieve that deeply. Now, I'm not saying that everyone has to do this, because what I've also noticed is that the certain people who do grieve that deeply do have the capacity to hold the darkness for other people. Now, when I say hold the darkness, I don't mean that you need to take everybody's shit on and hold it that way. No, you have the capacity to understand the depth of feelings on that scale, and that enables you to hold that. And when you have felt that depth of grief, that is why you attract clients who are hard baskets, who hard cases, who nobody else can fix, who doctors don't know what's wrong with them, who counseling doesn't work, because you have a gift to help them, and that is a huge part of your unique life purpose, and why people like us are being called to step up in a very big way as we lead up to the Age of Aquarius. Because the Age of Aquarius from now, Easter, what is that? April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, 8, 9, January. 9 months. Look at that. We're birthing a new reality coming into the Age of Aquarius. I'm covered in goosebumps. If you are resonating with this, I wasn't going to open Trust Your Intuition until the end of April. But with all this happening, I was like, this morning I was like, I need to open it, like all this energy flowing through me. I'm like, right. So Trust Your Intuition is where all of the depths of tools, that everything I talk about and what I help my clients with. Trust Intuition is certified, which means that you can go through that course and come out as a certified intuitive healer and life purpose activator. You will have a certificate for intuitive healing. You'll be able to gain insurance. You'll be able to grow your business. And if you are being called to this live stream, if you resonate deeply, you are being called to step up. This is 9 months before we step into the Age of Aquarius, and everyone, like, not everyone, there's a lot of people where everything's up in the air. They're like, oh my God, what is happening? Because when it hits that 9-month Easter and then December, isn't December Jesus's birthday? Like, wasn't that when he was born? That was when he was born, right? And then, okay, well, isn't that like, okay, now we're tapping into another layer of, you know, oh, I just heard, now we're tapping into another layer of patriarchal control. Easter, Christmas, like it's not the traditional, whatever this Gregorian calendar is, December to January to December, when actually there's 13 moons in a year, and the real calendar is based around 13 moons, not 12 months, 13, right? So if you are fully being called to this, it is your time to step up. If you are even in a business already and you are attracting clients that are, and I say hard case in a way of like, you know, they come to you and they say, nobody else can help me. The doctor told me this, this, and this because they don't know what the fuck's wrong with me. What is wrong with me? And straight away you're like, this is what's wrong with you. Because you have a gift. Yeah? Energy update. Let me just double check that I haven't forgotten anything that I wanted to talk about before I look at those. Yeah, okay, interesting. So that's the other thing. So the ancestral healing. So when we tap into the depth of grief, and you know how I said that fetus position, like, you know, piercing the veils grief, like in, you know, can't take another breath grief, that, right? What you are actually healing, and this is why I've noticed only certain people go to this depth, when what you are actually healing is generational, not just generational karmic lineage of all the grief and pain that no one's ever felt in the line before you, but you're also clearing collective karmic stuff. So you know how I talked about the cathedral, and then like people are really upset about it, and yes, they've got their own grief that's been triggered and their own connection to that cathedral, but then they've also got all the all grief from their life that they've never fucking felt before. But then imagine how many people on this earth are also feeling this, and so there's just this like thing of energy floating around where everyone's feeling everyone else's grief and tapping on, so it triggers their grief and yeah. So if you know, you have been touched by that, when we actually allow ourselves, you know, and this is where it steps into when you know you're healing and you're turning up and you're doing the work and you're turning up and doing when you allow yourself to go through a season of grief, which happens, right? When you first start doing this work, it happens. Why? Because for all these eons of years, and even just this lifetime, you've buried all this trauma and hurt and pain, and this person said this to you when you were 5 and you just took it on, and then your self-worth was low and all this stuff has happened since, and blah, 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 right? So when you realize that when you drop into the depth of grief like that, you're also healing collective grief, and you will feel it. You will feel it. There are certain times through those periods of grief that I've felt over the years, especially when this stuff first started, is like I felt I was grieving through the veils. Like that was so clear to me. Like it was like opened into abyss of darkness, but it wasn't a bad darkness. Like I knew I'd pierced the veils with the depth that I was going to. Right? And in that, it's all the witches that have been burnt. It's all the goddesses that have been, you know, shut down for feeling their heart, for all the way back to Eve. Again, I need to check where that story originated from. I don't even remember. Like, it wasn't even that made up. I don't know. So in that space, it's like being conscious that you are healing that. And when you feel that drop into that, you know that you're here for more than just what you do. You attract situations and you know how to help hard people because of the depth of understanding that you know and can feel at your core. There's a difference to knowing it to actually having experiencing it of yourself, and where that takes you on a soul evolution and where you go with that to bring that back, to be able to embody that depth of darkness is a very different feeling. There's knowing it, and then there's feeling it, and people can feel that too. People know and can feel that you can hold that depth. They don't know and understand it, but they know that you can take them there. There's some people that just know it here, and you can feel, oh yeah, yep. Then you can feel people that are right there. The depth of it. Into the dark abyss. If you haven't been there, you might know about it, but you haven't felt it. Yeah, there's a difference there. And it's very, very distinguishable, understanding, feeling. It's not something that can be understood. It's an experience. Yeah? Okay, let me check these comments because I wanted to say that. And no, there's another thing coming up because, Shani, I saw that you'd said that you're pregnant again. So I know this is a little bit off track, but for some reason I'm needing to mention it, right? It seems off track, but for some reason I'm needing to mention it. So I'll just say that, and maybe it's not off track. Of course not. So when we have a child, when our child is growing up, yeah, let's talk from newborn to 18, right? Beyond even. When your child reaches certain age points, and say, I don't know, let's just talk, for example, you have a mental breakdown when your child turns 3 or 4, and you're like, what's going on with me, and blah, blah, blah. The first thing you want to check in is what was going on for me when I was that age. What was going on for me when I was that age? Because as our children grow up, yeah, and this is why I'm talking about it, because this is how we break ancestral generational ties. This is how we break that karmic lineage to exactly what I posted about the other day about, I'll just talk about this bit. So like as a child reaches certain age points, okay, if stuff starts going wrong in your life, your marriage or your partnership starts to break down, or like shit's going on in career or whatever avenue, it doesn't matter what part of your life stuff's going wrong, the first thing you want to do is go, what was going on when I was 8? Oh yeah, we moved house, and oh yeah, dad lost his job, and okay, well, this makes total sense. Now, when we pick that up and we work on our stuff from our childhood, from when that was going on, right? We really do lots of core healing work, and that goes into depths of like so many avenues we go into healing that, right? When you do that work, that means that your child doesn't carry that trauma just like you've carried it from perhaps your dad's dad of when he was 8, and then that happened then, and so it happened to you, and then, oh, the buck stops here. That's how we break generational karmic lineage. Yes, there's meditations that the divine balance meditation that heals the divine feminine. Like there's all these tools we do that, right? But doing a meditation once doesn't clear generational karmic lineage forever. Why? Because the earth is constantly cycling. Our soul is constantly evolving and growing. And it's not like we constantly cycle back to the same things. Well, we do if we don't, stop it, and that's why the generational lineage is stopping now. That's where I feel moving into the Age of Aquarius, this entire reality will be blown out of the water and karmic cycles will stop, because so many of us are stepping up now to break karmic lineages and karmic cycles and grieving to the depths of piercing the veils that are going beyond time and space and reality, that are actually healing the planet. And so I can't remember whoever said at the start of this live stream, I wish people would care more about the planet and the beings rather than a fucking building, right? Is that people like us and people who do feel the grief, and you guys follow me if you're into spiritual work and you do any of this depth of the work. Like I said, there's a difference to just knowing it and just doing it occasionally to living it in your everyday reality and not feeling scared about dropping into the depths of grief that take you through the veils in a fetus position on your shower floor, right? It's people like us that are changing the consciousness of the planet. And what does that do? That ripples out. 100th monkey syndrome. I shared that the other day or yesterday, right? It ripples out and comes in. And the Age of Aquarius is dawning upon us. And this is a whole new reality where karmic cycles won't happen. Like, it's like, who knows, right? It might take 10 years to release all the karmic cycles on the planet. Who fucking knows, right? What is time? And time's speeding up. Time is even changing. Yeah? So who knows where we're going to be in 10 years' time? But my intuitive hit is that the karmic cycles eventually won't exist because there's so many of us doing the work to release them. To do the work so it doesn't pass down to our children and our children's children. And even though not every single person on the planet is doing this work, when there is enough of us doing it, the 100th monkey syndrome, it's like it naturally happens. It gets to a tipping point where it just, everybody shifts and everybody's like, whoa, right? That's what I had to share. That was the final piece around ancestral healing, about the karmic clearings, about all of this stuff, right? I want to check the comments. Yes, hardest week of your life. Yes, definitely watch, right? It'll make so much sense because we're coming up to Easter, because, you know, like we're birthing into the Age of Aquarius. Like, this isn't just a normal year. Like, we are birthing into a whole new cycle of being in a whole different vibration of energetic consciousness, of energetic alignment, of energetic astrological stuff, you know, like it all influences us. Yeah? It all affects us on a conscious, on a collective scale. Okay, let me check these. Oh, that comment just flicked off because you're talking about, and the serpent came back as that. I need to check that because I wanted to see that, but it just flicked off. That's why some cultures took women's genitalia to take control. Women can't have pleasure without a man. Yeah, see? All that shit, right? It's full on. And that's that. And this is where I want to talk about, like, as I said at the start of this live stream, that fire, that cathedral, the energy from it feels like a volcano, not, you know, and all I saw was just like everything underneath that earth coming up. So guys, if you just joined on Saturday morning, I know some of you already know this, on Saturday morning, I feel really called to hold a live global healing. It will be held at 8 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. I will post the other time soon, but that'll be Good Friday or Saturday morning, depending on where you are in the world. This is something that I only have ever held in my Trust Intuition group in a safe space, but it's so strong. I feel called to hold a global live healing to this depth. I know I did one in January that helped release the curse of humanity, but this feels similar but different. And it's interesting, the curse of humanity was lifted 3 months before or 4 months before. Now we're birthing a whole new reality. Interesting, not bringing karmic cycles in, not bringing the witch hunt stuff, right? The curse of humanity, like we've been cursed for having intuition, being called a witch, and then the cathedral starts burning down just before Easter because, oh, the goddess is awakening from deep under the earth, because our earth is the goddess herself. We came from the womb within that, right? And remember, not long ago, I posted about something, and then somebody said there's a whole world inside our world. Didn't someone post that? It's like, that's birthing out. Can't hold that down anymore. Right? Okay, let me just have a quick scan through these comments. Institutions, very established, the Roman Catholic Church. Yeah, lots of that. It is the falling away of these paradigms, and that's why, you know, it's like, what's happening? Well, everyone is feeling it, and that's why everyone's like, oh my god, you know, like everything's up in the air. It's like, yeah, and this is why it's so crucial for us to stay focused, to stay mindset, to be clear about what we want, to, you know, bring that scattered energy and hone it in for our purpose, for our spiritual gifts, for, you know, this is the time to do that. Because if you sense this energy, if you're resonating, you're one of us. Like, you're being called to step up, because in 5 years time you'll want to be doing this work. You know, like, if we can imagine, well, we can't, you know, and this is where I'm saying we don't know what's going to be like in 5 and 10 years time, but can you imagine a reality where karmic cycles for eons gone by and control and patriarchal control is no longer up here, but here? That's a reality we can't even imagine, but we know in our heart it's there. But what does it actually look like on the physical plane? Who knows? Doctors, medical systems, counselors, no offense guys, but a lot of people come to me saying that shit doesn't work. And I'm like, yeah, because you need to cry. Obviously there's other stuff too, but do you know what I mean? Like, at its core, if everyone just had a big cry on the planet, we'd be back in our hearts. Wouldn't be angry trying to hold it down and fighting everybody, right? Yay, Haley, you ended up joining. Yep, about the golf balls and negative thoughts. Exactly, Marina. We were talking about that in the Life Purpose Mentorship, weren't we? It's never about surface stuff. That is interesting. In almost 2 years since I've followed you and worked with you on things like 21 Day Shifter, it's now I'm just beginning again and huge opportunities come. Yes, and I can feel a new reality. Yes, exactly. Your grief was probably a good 1.5 years. There we go. 18 months, right? And this is where, you know, and I know for myself too, like going through, it was probably hit me around when Adea was maybe 3 to 4 until she was about 7. I probably had that many years of grief. Like, you know, it's not like crying every day, but those drops of grief that was in there. And inner child meditation, she was just crying. I was just holding her the whole time, like so much grief. A world crying day, holy fucking shit, yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Yes, a world crying day. Wouldn't that just drop everyone, like, oh my God, everyone would get off medication and everything. The vulnerability, how much would that drop us into our heart? Oh my God, a world crying day. How do we organize that stuff? How do we organize that stuff? It's the key. Telstra used 3s and 9 in its universal code. Yeah, I had a feeling about that. So interesting. 3-month contract. Yes, exactly. All the pyramids mathematically adding up to 3s and 9. Yeah, I know there's all stuff about it. I just don't know the technical bits about it unless I was to Google it again or, you know, look at that. So that's really interesting. Piercing the veils grief. Yes. Yep. It's that deep. You can feel it when you're there. Happened so much to me. I've been feeling like I'm bloody pregnant again. Oh, you're not pregnant. Right, got it. But you feel like that. Exactly, yeah? You've seen a picture of this woman's child she lost at 3 and you bawled your eyes out. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, because, and that's the thing, you know, like, and this is where it comes into using our clairsentient gift and not being flawed by our gift and not being exhausted by it and not feeling everyone else's shit. How do we be this sensitive empath, feeling healer person that feels fucking everything on the planet, even, you know, I don't know, everything, right? Everything. How do we do that and stay sane and do what we're here to do and not be exhausted by it, right? And that comes into honing your gift and really becoming really super sensitive to understanding energetics, to understanding, you know, what's somebody else's energy, what's yours. And that comes with time and practice and skills, you know, like that comes with honing your skills. Everybody can feel, right? But whether you want to be a driver who just drives the car or whether you want to be a race car driver, there is specific trainings to do that, right? When you hone your skills and practicing all the time, right? We can do something and if we don't keep practicing it, it goes away a bit, right? It's like human nature for some reason, I don't know. So it is like, how do we feel that woman's pain? How do we recognize that and feel it without bawling our eyes out and being flawed for the entire day when we've got work to do or run a family or you know what I mean? And that comes into training your gift and your skill. You've known me for how many years and you only just get it. Yeah, and this is where constant turning up, constant, you know, training, constant, and it's not like constant training. I'm not good enough, I need to constantly train. No, this is honing your skills. This is constantly listening to something, you know, about really, it takes skill to interpret it into intuitive messages. Yeah, it takes, you know, years of practice to understand different ways you receive intuition, let alone how somebody else receives intuition and then what's going on for them. It takes years to understand what your third eye is showing you and how you see energy or you don't see energy or how that interprets into, you know, what you do working in your everyday and how you sleep. Like, you know what I mean? That takes practice, skill, to constantly turning up, dedication, you know, like this isn't something that just happens overnight. And this is where when we can have even that 18 months of understanding of, you know, the 9-month birthing and the 9 months, whatever that is of the 18-month cycle, I don't know, when we can understand that, you know, and actually what I just saw saying that, it's like, you know, I need to check the numbers. I know I've got it, actually. That's probably why it's in my bedroom, because I felt called to pull it out and read it again, actually, on Sunday, The Ancient Flower, The Secret of Life. And it talks about Fibonacci Sequence, talks about the Fibonacci sequence, talks about the pyramids, talks about Atlantis, Lemuria, what happened, right? And what I just saw with that 9 18-month thing is like, you know, it's a spiral out and it gets larger and larger, and this is the evolving consciousness of evolution of humanity. And are we going in a spiral this way, or who really knows? But we're expanding out, you know, evolution is constantly expanding. So where are we on that scale of how long Earth has been alive? Like, I don't know, but it's huge, right? So Kelly says, I noticed that when my confusion and grief started again was the day after I did some ancestral healing. Boom. Yeah. Really important to know that when you, especially when you do my meditations, my divine balance meditations, the divine feminine, yeah, the triple goddess, the triune god, like they, and the past life meditation, they are not something to take lightly, right? Some people are like, did it work? You know, and some people are like, holy shit, that floored me. And the people who say, did it work? A few days later, they're like, holy shit, all this stuff just happened, Hannah. Like, you know, and I'm like, yeah, this is what happens when you go deep in the subconscious and you go and rewrite your history, and you're creating a new future. The past life meditations, the triple goddess, the triune god, those meditations, right? Like when they channel through, like this live stream is like, I can feel this energy flowing through me. Those meditations came through in August last year, just after all those eclipses in the eclipse season. That energy and powerful, that was strong when I wrote those. And if you do those meditations, they're deep healing, right? And the thing is, like, you'll notice the next day, like, you know, it starts to come up again because you just went back in time. You put your hand up and you said, I'm going to stop this and I'm going to sort this out, and, you know, I'm going to take responsibility and do something about it. Be mindful the next couple of days, you're going to need support. You're going to need to be gentle with yourself. You're going to need to know how to support yourself. And again, this is why in Trust Your Intuition, I teach you about this. I teach you about what happens when grief comes up. I teach you about the cycles of Mother Nature and why we cycle with her or against her, and how to bring that back into balance, why we're even cyclic beings in the first place, you know, like, and how that hones you in and strengthening your intuition. Because if you're blocking down any emotions, sadness, grief, hurt, anger, it's not okay for me to be happy, I need to be depressed all the time, like there's so many things there. If you're blocking any one of those emotions, you're also blocking your intuition. Why? Because your intuition is a feeling. It's an emotion. Yes, there's different ways we receive our intuition, but your intuition is energy, and so is your so are your emotions. Yeah? And if you're blocking any of it, again, it comes back to receiving. Do I feel safe to receive? And here we drop in to the masculine and feminine. Yeah, the feminine is like an open flower. Our ears are about receiving our intuition. They look like our ovaries. If we have problems listening to other people, or if we don't feel safe to receive our intuition because we were killed in a past life for our, you know, healing the witch hunts, blah, 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 you know, it closes down our ears. It closes down our ovaries. We need to work on opening up and feeling safe to receive a penis. We might receive a penis in our vagina, but our ovaries are like, no, I don't feel safe. Right? So when we can learn to work to feel safe, then we can actually receive at the depth where we're supposed to, right? And this is where the patriarchal control for all these eons of time have created so many like issues with the feminine. And, you know, why is IVF so high? Why is cesarean so high? Because we don't feel safe to receive the masculine. It's put all this fear and patriarchal like control into the feminine in general in society, right? And so no one wants to do that, and everyone's like, oh yeah, I'll hand my power over to you. Yes, I need a C-section. Actually, I probably wouldn't have. I'll probably get in trouble for saying that, but I'm really, really adamant, you know, if all that sort of thing. If your ears are closed, your base chakra is going to be closed. If your ears, your heart, and your base are intrinsically connected, right? I could go on forever about this. I only just now decided I wanted to be a healer this second. Yep, exactly. Because if you're resonating with this stuff and you get it, and you've been looking for your life purpose, and you're like, all these things, I'm not just saying you, Emma, but like, you know, I see it with a few people, with clients and stuff, and I'm like, yes, because you're supposed to do spiritual stuff. Yes, when are you going to start teaching that? Yeah, when are you going to do that, right? And when you start incorporating building intuition, feeling safe in your femininity, feeling safe in the goddess, feeling safe in the ways before religion hit our earth, when we're connecting back to our menstrual cycle. You know, they say when the women return their blood to the earth, then peace will reign, or something like that, right? The women used to be, it's what the red tent is there, right? They used to be revered for bleeding every month, and the men would wait, and the tribe would wait till they come out with the wisdom that they've received. Right now, we're being told to put a tampon in, take Nurofen, and keep working. Right? And we wonder why society is so out of whack and so out of balance. Crying days, self-care days, and honoring women's cycles days. Imagine when every woman starts honoring their cycle, what we're going to shift back into on a collective scale, right? And actually, like, bring the collective back into balance. All women used to menstruate together because there was no electricity and no lights and all that jazz, right? If you don't have a menstrual cup and you've been thinking about it, and you actually haven't placed your blood on the earth before from saving it in a menstrual cup, or even painting yourself with your blood, you really want to connect back to your femininity, you want to feel safe in who you really are and your power of tapping into your goddess self. Oof. Next level tools, guys. Obviously needed to share that bit too. You're speaking my life story, bringing confirmation to my fears. Yes, you're so very welcome. I'm going to pop in the comments right now, trust your intuition. This is my signature program. This is where, you know, it only opens intuitively throughout the year when things like this happen in the world, and I'm like, right, time for healers to step up. So this is certified, as I said, you can come out of this as a certified intuitive healer, which means that you can really use these skills in your business right at the depths of your core of what you're supposed to be doing. Prepare to do meditations when you have days off. You will need the recovery time. Good tip, Carrie. I love that. I love that. Yeah, you want to drop into the depth of your power. You guys have just got a power live stream of tools right here and all the keys to healing. Well, not all of them. Not pregnant. Yep, sorry. I didn't see that. I just saw pregnant, and yeah. Yes, you've been dealing with this for such a long time. It's becoming such a big part of my mission to shift on this planet. Yes, awesome. And that's the thing, you know, we don't go through this. And a big part of, you know, people's life purpose, it's not, you know, like people think, oh, I'm just going to step into my life purpose tomorrow and it's all going to be amazing. It's like, actually, no, every single thing that you're doing right up into this moment is part of your life purpose, you know, like, you know, I've done yoga teaching, I've done like so many things, and it's like, but I don't just do one thing. It's all those skills has brought me to this point and honed my spiritual abilities to where it is now with everything that I've done, plus being a mum and aware parenting, by the way, has been a big aspect of that, has led me to where I am now. And I know that I'm on life purpose now. I can feel that in my bones, right? And I can feel when I go off that, right? And I quickly come back. So it's always being able to, you know, bring yourself into knowing that every single skill, right? And you don't have to be a yoga teacher to be a healer, but I'm saying that everything that you've done in your life, every life experience you've been through, every aspect of grief and trauma and joy stuff that you've been through has some purpose to your purpose and how you help people today. Do not discount that one single moment in time. Okay? Yes, watch this from the start, definitely, Yvonne. Had to look at yourself in every age for your kids. Yes, yeah. And it's the best way to take the sting out of the kids are doing wrong and they're playing up and why is there something wrong with them and I'm going to give them ADD tablets because da-da-da. Actually, if you fucking look at what's going on at your life when you were that age and actually do the deep inner work, you wouldn't have to medicate your kids. I know that I'm speaking out really touchy subjects on this live stream, but I actually feel really passionate about them, and it's a big part of my purpose to wake people up and give them the tools, which in Trust Intuition is every single freaking tool you need to do with everything I've been talking about on this live stream. Plus, you can teach this to others once you become certified. It's like, I'm really passionate about this. I'm really passionate about this, yeah? Because, and it's kind of like, well, I could go and help the kids. It's like, actually, if I help the parents, then it won't have to be the kids that I'm helping when they grow up as adults because they're not passing that shit on, right? And I always say, whatever you learn, spiritual tools, clearing energy, teach that to your kids. Teach that to your kids. It's so important. People ask me, what am I supposed to teach to my kids? And I'm like, everything that I teach you. Everything that you learn, teach that to them, right? And it's not like I sit a day down and do it, but if conversation comes up and I'm like, oh, are you carrying somebody's energy? Oh yeah, I think you're carrying somebody's energy. And like, oh, let's ask Archangel Michael of 100% light to clear that. Oh, well, can you do it for me? Okay. And we do it together and, you know, do a little process together, right? Not forcing it on her. But when it comes up, it's important to teach them what you know, right? I knew even my therapist, deeply trusted, could not understand the depth of healing terms of spiritual awakening. Yeah, like I could, yeah. You understand grief in ways not even therapists can get with karmic ties, etc. Yes. She could only take me so far. And when I found you and trust intuition tribe, yes. See, and this is the thing, like, it's not that anyone's bad or wrong or doctors are bad. Like, if I always say, right, if somebody wanted, you know, if I was in a car accident, I'd want the medics to take me to the hospital and the doctor to treat me if I needed my arm amputated, like, you know, but it's kind of like, what I'm saying is that everything has a purpose. That's like, you know, if I am getting sick or something and I need antibiotics, I'll take the fucking antibiotics so I don't have to end up in hospital, right? Everything on this planet serves a purpose. And when you can deeply trust what's right for you in any given moment, you stay on purpose. Yeah? It's massive work, yes. Yep, you just posted something too. You're so incredible. It feels so good to know everything is happening so perfect. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I felt really strongly it's like I needed to stop doing those weekly energy updates and come back to doing this because this is my gift, right? And this is how I serve you the best, to make sure you guys know nothing's wrong. You're not crazy. You're just super sensitive and this is what's going on collectively and all of that jazz, right? And you can also learn the skills to tune into that depth yourself, which is, again, trust intuition is that, all of that, how to do it, why, okay. When you begin healing like this, people around you feel like, yes, exactly, your whole reality changed. People feel it. You don't even need to talk to them about it. They feel your vibration shift. They don't know what's different, but they feel it. Sometimes that's hard. Sometimes that's easy. It's a whole nother live stream on that. It's going to be amazing. You're so welcome, Danny. On point. Yes. Still really love that World Crying Day. Oh, that's like the best thing in the world. Yeah, so bang on. Thank you, guys. Coming from a detached Aquarius means a lot. Awesome. Yeah, isn't that interesting? A detached Aquarius is kind of like letting go of the rigid structures and, you know, like, can we just be in the light now? Which is so interesting because this whole, you know, releasing the curse of humanity that I did in January, if you haven't watched that live stream and you feel like you've been cursed, please send me a private message and I will send you the link for that, because that was powerful in releasing why you think you feel like you've been cursed and how humanity was cursed. And that lifted a big thing off. You know, the Grim Reaper is around. There's a lot of darkness on the planet. Witch even came through. And it was like, you know, if we talk about this Fibonacci sequence and we're expanding outwards and say, I don't know, for example, say the darkness is in there, which makes total sense when we think about a womb, and then we're expanding out and then we birth into the light. Is this what's happening? Oh, the things that come through. And as Grim and Witch came through, so Grim Reaper's like the darkest of death you can get, right? And then Witch is pretty much in the defense of, like, you know, everyone's attacking her, so she's got to be attacking back, you know? It's kind of like that sort of energy. And now we've released the curse of humanity, and now this is coming spiraling out and we're getting larger into the light. It's like when, you know, this expands out, it's kind of like the Grim Reaper and Witch couldn't come to the light with us, you know. If we're moving into the Age of Aquarius, which is the light bringer, and we are expanding out, which is our soul's natural evolution of everything that we are in this planet, you know, like, sometimes I blow my own mind with what comes through. When is my book coming out? Super close to, like, I just want to take like a week off and just write the whole thing, because that's how I work best. But it is coming out. It'd be this year. I wanted it to be by April, but that hasn't happened, right? Soon. Okay. Gabby says she's in so much emotional pain at the moment. Yeah. So, and this is the thing too, if you are in a lot of emotional pain, trauma, heartache, can't stop crying, and you've never had guidance around why, what, how, feel like nobody can help you, counsels don't work, all that sort of thing. And this is what I say to people, I'm like, book in because I can help you so much more, you know, like my 21-day shifter program will shift you beyond measure. The investment for that is increasing on the 12th of May, so you've still got a little bit to get in before that investment does increase, but that's 21 days over WhatsApp, me and you, back and forth, like consistently, you know, with voice messages, text messages. I do psychic readings, but I can give you the meditations, I can guide you through. And the thing with working with me one-on-one is that when I, you know, say do the past life meditation, right, and it's not like you just go and do it and you're on your own and you're left to all your devices about, well, I don't really understand that. But when you work with me one-on-one, I tell you to tell me what happens, because then I decipher it. It guides the next step, whether we go somewhere else or we do it again or what's happening. And I get a bigger picture of what's going on when your skills aren't quite there yet, sort of thing, right? And it helps you to grow your skills and that's what that's about. So then you've got that tool that comes on board too, right? So if you need support, I know I hop on about it, but the 21-day shifter is the best space to do that with me. Obviously there's 3 months programs, there's 6 months, 12 programs, and there's 12 months programs, which, by the way, now that Trust Your Intuition is open, the inner circle is open as well. The inner circle is me 12 months one-on-one, but you also get access to the life purpose mentorship. You also get access to Trust Your Intuition. That's all your certifications that come. That's the like level 1 certification, that's the advanced certification, plus like lifetime access to those courses. The groups you get 12 months access to, and then there's 12 months one-on-one with me, plus there's distance healings, there's cracking the code sessions with that as well. So, you know, there's different options of working with me, but, you know, you've got my meditations, you can start there. But if you haven't had somebody that has guided you through, this is why this is happening, this is how this happens, this is what we do here, this is how I hold you, and it's okay to grieve, right? When somebody hasn't had that before, that's when we're like, what's wrong with me, right? Because society is like, there's something wrong with you, here's a pill, right? Again, it's not everyone, but, you know, this is where I'm passionate about changing this. So Jeanette says, cut the strings, webs. Yep, there's actually a practice to sever those interaction lines to keep your energy clear. Yes, there is. I don't recommend just cutting cords. I really don't. You know, yes, we can clear energy, and cutting cords in emergencies is good. But when we're just cutting cord, oh, there's a cord, let's just cut it. If we don't heal the reason that we've called that in and why that attached there in the first place, that will just come back, or it'll come back in a bigger way, or something else will happen, because there's still a hole here that you haven't healed the core of why that is. That's why we do past life work. That's why we do generational healing. That's why we do inner child work. That's why we do shadow work. Because if we're not healing the core and we're just cutting cords, we're just kind of like these, you know, when I see like a pile of like cut cords like all coming out, and they're like, hey, look, I need an attachment, like, oh, and then we attach to something else, or something else will come in, right? It's so important to heal the core, and the core work is that's what I do. That's my gift. That's what I teach you in Trust Your Intuition. Yes, there's there's cord cutting meditations in there because we do need them. But if you're not doing the follow-up work, if you're not understanding why it's there in the first place, if you're not really dropping into the core, they will come back, yeah? So yes, so important, but there's other work to do with that as well. Deep grief does feel like being in a big dark womb. Why do you think pregnant mothers are so emotional? Okay. Spirals of 3, 9, and 18. Oh. I know I've read all this stuff, like literally, like when I was 21, half my books are in there, but The Ancient Flowers, Secret of Life, and Drunvalo Michelle's that work I was deep into when I was 21, and it's where I learned a lot of stuff from as well on that. But I just, you know, I guess I live it now rather than having that conscious understanding, and I'm like, oh, hang on, I need to double check what the conscious meaning of that was or something. I don't know. Yes, you have to heal the core issue, or the problem will come back, and that's why we cycle around, and why is this happening again, and why is this happening again, right? We need to heal the core. I just checking these comments. You've started honoring your cycles and taking days off and resting. Yes, awesome. Like, you know, you tap into that flow and your own cycle. Oof, next level power. Oh, yeah, awesome. So painting yourself with your own blood. Some people will be like, eh, you know, but when you can do it, and it's not easy to do that in the start either. It's kind of can be confronting, and it's interesting what comes up for you while it's being confronting, while you're doing that. You know, you're releasing all the judgments of society, of growing up, of how you were introduced to your cycle in general. You know, like a lot of healing can come into the maiden aspect of yourself, you know, ritualizing and coming back into, you know, your womanhood, basically. Yeah, I'm covered in goosebumps as I say that. Perfect time this weekend, like full moon, or even right now, why wait? You know, to really do a sacred ritual to welcome yourself back into your maidenhood, into you becoming a woman. Because like for me, I was given a book, here, read a book and shut the door and walked out. And I was like, okay, right? So I had to do a lot of reconnecting back with that maiden part of me and really honoring that I'm a woman and stepping into that, right? You're so passionate about it too. Awesome. Feel the same way. Don't medicate kids. Yes. Inner mojo for children. I haven't heard of that. There's textbook learning and there's life learning. Makes a huge difference. It sure is. Yeah, that's what they say. Wisdom only comes with experience or something. You're trained and licensed child wellbeing facilitator. It will wipe out mental illnesses in the next generation. Yes, awesome. I know I have lots of base chakra stuff to do. I have lots of pain in my hips ever since having children. Yeah, I'm not sure if you've ever had your hips put back into alignment, Shani. I know like my kinesiologist is like an acupuncturist and I don't know, does all these other amazing things. When I first started seeing him, you know, I had a day 10 years ago and he's like, oh, your hips, like he said something about your hips are out. And I was like, oh yeah, well my knee's been playing up and da da da. And he's like, yeah, well your hips been out since childbirth. And I was like, oh shit. And I've been running on it and, you know, all this sort of thing for 10 years. I'm like, wow, you know, I think it's so important to get put back into place in a way after having a child. If you haven't and you've had pain in your hips, find an awesome kinesiologist, find trust who you're drawn to about that. But I felt called to say that reading that. You're going to look into the intuitive course. Yeah, it's powerful. Like I said, it's got everything in there. So Kari says just societally and culturally, everything is coming into the light. Yes, nothing can be hidden anymore. Yes, and isn't it interesting all that stuff happened in the US about, well, I didn't really pay much attention to it. So all the child sex slave stuff, but then there was, like all the priest stuff and everything. You know, that was like October, November last year, hey, when all that was happening too. So it is all coming out for sure. Thank you for the live stream. It's been reassuring. I can continue with your work and all of the crying. Yes. I mean, a lot of crying. Yes. Seriously, great help and validation. You're so welcome. Yeah, it's important. Definitely has shifted your mum from doing my 21-day shifter. Yeah, I've loved working with your mum. She's awesome. Yeah, people shift all that. That's why it's called the 21-day shifter. From someone has done it and someone who had deep trust issues, the 21-day shifter is powerful. Thanks, guys. Yeah, you're welcome, Jeanette. Yeah, it's so important to heal the core instead of just cutting cords. It's super important. Totally see you doing a TED Talk. Yep, it's all coming. Love it. 22 likes and 2 shares, 222. This was necessary live stream. Yeah, this is where I just want to come on and do what I do. Every live stream will be an energy update because that's what I do. My hips are out too since pregnancy was the cause for me too. Yeah, so important, right? So important to put that back in. And isn't it interesting, right? So the hips, when we look at the hips, so in the secret language of the body, this is so interesting, this is coming up. So hips, hang on a sec, so 146. When we look at what we've just spoken about and the feminine and da-da-da and childbirth and the 9 months and da-da-da, birthing, hip problems, too much responsibility, carrying people and problems around, sense of burden, too much frustration. Isn't it interesting? Carrying people and problems around. Well, we're carrying souls and babies around until we birth them, right? Too much frustration and guilt, feeling undervalued, unacknowledged, unsupported and unappreciated, feeling shot down, manipulated, used, taken advantage of, inability to move forward. Now, I'm so curious where the hips of the earth are. So you know how like, you know how our physical body is represented in astrology. So correct me if I'm wrong, guys, just from random memory, like Aries is connected to our head, Taurus is connected to our neck. Like, do you know what I mean? Like every astrological thing is connected to a part in our body. I know there's places around the world that are certain chakras. I can't remember what that one in Paris was. I don't know if it's base chakra or not. I'm so curious what the body parts are represented around the world, because the chakras are there. So the hips would be somewhere. So curious about that. If anybody knows, would love to know. Just because of what we've been talking about on this live stream, feeling shot down, manipulated, used, taken advantage of, inability to move forward, feeling unappreciated, unsupported, undervalued, unacknowledged. That's the goddess, right? She has this profound wisdom, intuition, right? And then that has been shut down for all these eons of time, and now it's coming back, you know? So if you're really wanting to reclaim your power, connect back to your menstrual cycles, connect back to, like, you know, if you've been pregnant and had a child and your hips are out, or if you haven't ever had the hips put back in or just checked. I don't know if chiropractors do that, I don't know. I went to my kinesiologist and he seemed to do all this other stuff as well. So, you know, if this is resonating with you, maybe check that out as well. Yeah, I think she was something like that too, Carolyn Mace, a Catholic. I don't know. You always felt like people take from you. Interesting, right? So kind of reclaiming your power and really working on base chakra, hips, you know, all of that, which, by the way, base chakra is life purpose, feeling supported. It's money, it's sexuality, it's, you know, receiving and trust, safety, yeah? Taking back your power. I'm coming into the crone cycle. Yep, my cycle is trying to stop. So what would you recommend during this? Yeah, so working with the triple goddess and really working with the crone energy. And even like from mother to crone, and grieving that shift. Yeah, grieving moving out of mother and moving into crone, and obviously the triple goddess, working with that, and even the sacred four, you know, working with those aspects and now enabling the other sacred three to support the crone and even support the mother, like that grieving process there. I'd really work on that. You could even do like a sacred ritual to release, you know, all the burdens of motherhood, or, you know, and the love of, you know, like do something to really honor that and the shift into crone, and then ask crone, what is it that brings me into you? What gifts, you know, how do I reconnect? How do I come into that gift? Yeah. Is what came through. You'll be 49 in August. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, something sort of sacred ritual like that would be amazing. I even just got the message then, even like out on the land or traveling to a particular area that represents crone for you too. I just got that message. So I don't know, Glastonbury and all that stuff's coming to mind, but at the same time, I need to tune into that for you. See 222 all the time. What's the significance? So 222 is have faith. It's okay. Something like that. Let me check. So 222, trust that everything is working out exactly as it's supposed to, with divine blessings for everyone involved. Let go and have faith. Ding. Africa is the birthplace for the human race. Do you know, it's so interesting when I was tuning into this live stream, because can't believe you just said that. So this global live healing that I'm going to do on Easter Saturday or Good Friday, depending on where you are in the world, it'll be 8 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. I was already starting to tune into that. Like, this live stream was so strong, and before I was like, as I was getting ready, I was just like, all this energy coming through in Africa. And I don't know, I know diamonds are mined there. Is there gold that's mined in Africa? Surely. I don't know. But anyway, it was like underneath Africa, and it was kind of like around Morocco and stuff up there. It was like there's gold. And I don't know if that's like physically or metaphysically, but it's like, and gold is the metal of regeneration. Yeah, which is interesting, and, you know, already coming out of this like healing. Like, I feel like this birthing, or I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what comes through on Saturday in this global healing, right? That I'm going to do publicly, which I'm a little bit nervous about, because this is the stuff I only usually do in my trusty intuition tribe. So, yeah, so the gold underneath there, like, and it's, you know, when we look at crystals, there's crystals all around the earth, in the earth, right? And there's certain places where they're kind of more dominant. So when we connect with one crystal in the earth, it like activates the grids through the others and through the others around the earth. So there's something in that, and it's already starting to surface. So for whatever reason, I just wanted to say that. It's already starting to come through. Just because you brought up Africa. You brought up Africa. Africa is the birthplace of the human race. Like, whew, huge, right? How interesting. And there's a lot of darkness in Africa, because that's what I was already feeling in this global healing stuff was already coming through. I was like, okay, it's already starting to shift. This is what happened. This is what happened in the Trust Intuition live stream. In that global healing that happened, it was like, cool, I'm doing it on Sunday morning, and it was like Wednesday or something, which is all like today, and for days it was already happening. Like, I'm posting in the group and going, oh my god, this is happening. Like, it's already happening. So be mindful from now until we do that global live healing, is already stuff coming out. Yeah, just got a bit distracted by that, because Africa being the birthplace of the human race and a lot of darkness there, and what have we been talking about? The womb and the darkness and coming into light and da-da-da. So interesting, right? Your chiro does. Yeah, awesome. So chiropractors do. I assume they did, but I've never actually been to a chiropractor, to be honest. Yes, and going through all of this right now. Yes, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Thanks, Dawn. Yeah, I'd highly recommend watching the replay if you're just joining. Yeah, Glastonbury is the heart chakra. I have heard that before. How long is the super early bird going for? I don't know. This is intuitive stuff. All my launches and all of that is intuitive. So when I get the nudge to put it up to just early bird, and then it'll be final round price, that will be when it happens. So yeah, early bird is open now, and obviously the inner circle is open in that as well. So yeah, super intuitive with that. I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't planning to open it until the 30th of April, but with everything that's been going on in this energy, it was like open trust intuition. I'm like, okay, so I trust that. Yes, the gold is there. It's the poorest nation with the most wealth. Yeah, isn't that interesting? And I feel like all this global shift and global stuff, all the governments and even the financial systems changing in the world, like that's all changing. And I feel like in the next 10 to 20 years, everything's shifting around that too. Because the financial systems are even been, you know, an aspect of control and going to work, 9-to-5 jobs and school systems and the whole thing, right? Reality is going to be very different soon. We may not see it this lifetime, but I don't know. I got a feeling some big shifts already happened. Yeah. You wanted to cry. The earth there is so, so sad. Yeah, I feel like we'll be starting our earth healing, earth live global healing there. However, I just want to point out it already has, because we're already feeling that. So be mindful. Yeah. We've got all that stuff with the Notre Dame and fire and everyone feeling all those emotions. From now until then, we've also just tapped into what's going on in Africa. If you are going to turn up and either watch the live or the replay of this live global healing, please know that you are already connected to it. So any other emotions that you start feeling, yes, it's your own personal stuff, but it's also bigger than you, and we are clearing out a lot. I feel like there will be some big things shifting between now and the end of the year. And last time I did that global healing in Trust Intuition through, you know, New Orleans and everything, and then down to Atlantis, and now Lemuria's come up, and it'll just be interesting to see what shifts from this too. Okay. Will I post the times about the global healing? Yes, I will. Yeah, definitely. I'll post that, get that out to you guys. All right. Thanks for joining live, guys. Oh, the Earth Sacral Chakra is Lake Titicaca in Peru. Yeah, how interesting. It's interesting they're all over the place, hey? Not in a straight line, which life isn't. You were in the last one. Yeah, it was powerful, right? It was powerful. It was powerful. Okay, I'm going to jump off. If you guys need support or you want information about the 21-day shifter program, please send me a private message. The investment for that is increasing soon. But Trust Intuition is open. The link is pinned to the comments. You'll also see me posting about that. If you've got questions about that or the certification to become a certified intuitive healer and life purpose activator, please send me a message. Otherwise, I shall see you guys soon. Thanks for joining me for my intuitive space of coming live, because this is where I feel most alive in my live streams, doing it intuitively when I feel like it. So thank you for joining me live for this powerful energy update. And as I said, all my live streams are energy updates. I'm not going to put that hashtag on there anymore. It's just that everything I do is always related to energy updates and the collective consciousness and what's going on, because this brings us to reality awareness and awakening the consciousness of humanity. My name is Hannah. If you think this can help somebody, please share it. Please like or love or subscribe if you are on YouTube, or if you think somebody needs to see it, tag their name in or send it in a private message. I will see you guys really soon. Enjoy this beautiful full moon coming up in almost 48 hours. Remember, it's a powerful weekend, a powerful portal. Lots of love to you guys. Namaste.